Hi, today is the 17th of December 2025. Now, here is a progress report of some of the information that's been going on for the last, I'd say, 6 years or so. 2018, we had the Brazil History Museum burn, and that was on purpose by the Lightworker military because they had to clear out the tunnels below. They also had to get into the building and set it up for full surveillance because the Satanists have been murdering people in our history museums, our history buildings that are historical around this country and around the world. So that's why they got into the Brazil History Museum in 2018 and burned it. The Poconos Mountains Resort, same reason, but they burned it, but they've been hunting especially children up in the Poconos Mountains area, and that resort was one of them. So they burned it and cleared out the tunnel systems underneath in 2019. In 2019, we had Notre Dame burn, same reason, human sacrifice. The Satanists over in France they were fiending to kill, and so they were taking up their sacrifice location over in the Nantes Cathedral area. They had probably been doing it there anyway, but then they ramped it up in Nantes. So the military came in and burned that one too. And if you check online, I think there's been some more burning of cathedrals in France, and that is why. These historical churches, cathedrals, buildings have been used as human sacrifice locations. Little Chinatown Museum burned in 2020 was the same reason. They were actually trafficking mostly the little girls from China after they kidnapped them from their mothers. They would bring them to the Manhattan Little Chinatown Museum, which used to be a girls' home, and they would put these girls as slaves into our nail salons, prostitution, and massage parlors. And these girls aren't able to speak English. They're kept away from the public, and that is why. That's human slavery right in front of us. And that was burned, same thing. That was a bitch slap to the House of China, Saudi Arabia, and India. Not the people. The three bloodlines out of those countries is who started Satanism, and they're the three that have been on the plate from day one. They have minions of different bloodlines around the world, people that were easily soul sellers, and one of them was the Joseph Mengele bloodline out of France. They were the ones dealing in human body parts and all of that, going to Trudy Cooper, who is at the top of Bloomin' Brands out of Tampa, and that is the owner of Outback, and Outback and Starkey Starkey and East Bay is where they were picking up our homeless people and using them for human organ harvesting, and they were keeping them in a room next to the back door of Outback in the kitchen. If you go through the back door and look to your left, that's where they had their human organ harvesting room, literally where they kept the humans. They kept them before they shipped them out. And they were rounding them up, putting them in that building, putting them in that room, a soundproof room with, it looked like freezer doors when I was there in 2020. And I reported that at the same time that the Little Chinatown Museum was burned. That's when China came up with the COVID. Now, I'm sure that wasn't the only couple reasons, but we were getting way too close to them, and they freaked the fuck out. They wanted to push communism right now when they actually had a 50-year plan to increment up communism. Gated communities, churches, schools, historical buildings, islands, Scientology Central, Maharishi in Fairfield, Iowa, the Amana Colonies, Kelowna in Iowa, different locations like this are very, very prevalent for human sacrifice. There are a lot of good people in those locations, but there are also a lot of Satanists. The gated communities, those people have locked themselves into their own prison, but they have victims inside there. We need boots on the ground to really be watching out for the gated communities, especially right now. And all of those historical buildings, the government buildings and all of that, the schools, if you're a boater and you see unusual activity out on the water, it needs to be reported. It needs to be reported. That's the best defense that humanity has. Fear is your biggest downfall. Have no fear. Take no shit. Have no fear. Move forward any way through the fear if you need to. Be self-sovereign. Think for yourself. And have love for everyone. Unconditional love for everyone. That's when you know that heaven has your back. But those are 3 things that have to be righted in us before we can get help from heaven, basically. Before you have to let go of things that you've been brainwashed not to have. You have to be in fear, right? Don't be strong. Don't think for yourself. Act like a herd. If you're not part of that gang called church, ooh, you're not cool. Ooh, you must be a loser if you're not part of that church, right? Don't people go to church for, a lot of times it's like prestige. I think that's funny. So you're rubbing elbows with the dude that just pedophiled and killed children the night before? Ew. Yeah, you're a herd. You're a herd. Think for yourself. You want church? Talk to God. You don't need a middleman. Dummy. I'm not nice. I'm not nice sometimes, but that's the truth. You gotta think for yourself, and you have to have unconditional love for everybody. Like I told you, if you start thinking you're better than anybody else, you're a maggot under a shoe. Period. There is no in between. You're a maggot. Don't be a maggot. You shut the door on God when you start thinking like that. And that's your programming. That is not who you were at 3. That is not who you are today. But you got to get in touch with that. Anyway, that's a progress report. That's where we're going, man. We're going full gangbusters on the Satanists this Christmas. They don't have a fucking clue. They think it's business as usual. Killing, shilling, preying upon the innocent, getting them into those party situations. They think that they got it all made. They're fucked this time. They don't even know it. Just like Elvis would say, they live in a river in Egypt called denial. Use it. Use it to your advantage, okay?